Hello, Pirate Dave here. It's time for another Phantom Daily story. This time, daily story number 10, The Mysterious Girl, all the way from May 8th, 1939. To quickly recap the previous story, the slave traders, Diana Palmer was shipwrecked in the Arabian Peninsula where she was taken captured by slave traders. She met a Lieutenant Byron who makes it back to Bengala to find the Phantom. The Phantom flies to the Arabian Peninsula, is briefly reunited with Diana Palmer before being buried in an anthill, presumably to his death. Unbeknownst to Diana, he does make it out of there and paves the way for Lieutenant Byron to find Diana Palmer. And Diana actually thinks the Phantom is dead and she has fallen ill as a result. The doctor, fearing her health, has decided not to let her know the Phantom is alive. He fears that her heart would be too weak to take the shock of that. So the Phantom lets Diana go for now. He doesn't let her know that he is actually alive, and we move on to the next adventure. Not to bury the lead too much, but the mysterious girl will not really make reference to that larger Diana story. This is just like Little Toma could really take place at any point in the Phantom's history, even before he met Diana. It's very isolated in that regard. But let's go ahead and get right into it. Our story starts in the city of Alexandria in Egypt. The Phantom is in a curio shop looking at some antiquities when a young girl wanders in asking what the time is, which, itself isn't odd, but then she asks, "What city is this?" After learning the information she wanted, she wanders back out, and the shop owner, the Phantom, are like, "Oh, well, that was weird." It doesn't take long for the young woman to be targeted by a gang of thugs who drag her off into a doorway. The Phantom, having heard this and being the hero that he is, races off to chase down the thugs, who predictably are robbing the young woman of her jewels. However, the Phantom is quick. He thwarts the thugs' initial attempts, takes off with the girl to safety, and begins asking her questions. But she does not know. I'm sorry, the focus is not working very well. She doesn't know anything about herself. She can't tell anything. She doesn't know her name. She doesn't know why she's here. The Phantom, not getting anywhere with that information, decides to go after the thugs because they have taken her jewelry. In true Phantom fashion, of course, he is successful. He chases down the thugs and gets the jewelry back and makes it back to the girl, but she is gone. And Devil with her. Devil's gone too. Well, this is crazy. Phantom gets the thugs over to the local police and takes off to find his dog at the very least, right? Eventually, Devil comes running back, and Devil, being the great little companion that he is, leads the Phantom to where the girl is staying, apparently at this hotel. Ringing the clerk, letting him know to bring the woman down. She comes down, but she doesn't know who this guy is. She says, "I don't know you. It's not my jewelry. Get lost." The Phantom does not. The Phantom doesn't like leaving mysteries mysterious, so he climbs up to the room to confront her. She starts freaking out. "Help! Help!" We get a bit of a panel jump. He takes her up to the roof. That's where she tells him, "I was scared. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who I am. So when I saw you, I just panicked and I pretended like I never saw you before." She can't remember anything. The mysterious girl indeed. Who would have thought the story title was so appropriate? So the Phantom tries his best to help her, running through a number of names, none of which actually recall any memory within her, when a strange man shows up at the hotel. "Count Pharos. Call her, please. Tell her that her guardian, Count Pharos, is here." Count Pharos. Well, he claims to be her guardian, but she doesn't really recognize him. Of course, who's the Phantom to object? He doesn't have any information about her either, but he's not gonna just let that go. So he decides he's gonna get on the same ship that Count Pharos and this mysterious girl are on, and he's going to continue investigating. He interrogates Count Pharos and says, "Hey, we could take her to a doctor. We could get her checked out, see what's happening." Count Pharos is like, "No, no, it's fine. This happens all the time. She's just very forgetful. Shut up. Go away." The Phantom does not go away. He decides he's going to sneak into the quarters to find out what's going on. Sure enough, Count Pharos's thugs, this lead thug is Red, try to stop the Phantom, and that works about as best as you can imagine. The Phantom's not going to be stopped that easily. There's like, I didn't know there would be 6 of them. The Phantom finds the mysterious girl and almost gets her untied, and that's when Count Pharos shows up with the captain and says, "There's the man, Captain. He tried to break into my..." We get I don't think this is quite a panel jump. I think it's just like, I don't think Lee Falk really addressed what the girl would say to the captain, to say, "Oh no, this guy, I like," she was just tied up. So you think she would tell the captain, "Hey, this Count Pharos guy just tied me up." Instead, we get this panel jump where the Phantom's being thrown into the brig. Meanwhile, Count Pharos realizes his time is almost up. He'll be found out soon, so he has Red throw this dummy overboard so that he and the girl and Red can escape on a boat without being questioned in the port. The Phantom, being too nice of a guy to let himself get thrown in the brig, escapes out of the brig when the when the sailor brings Devil down into the cell with him. Just like that little panel jump earlier, this is having a lot of convenient developments. Anyway, the Phantom and Devil jump over. Look at Devil just full sending it, man. I'm sorry about the focus. It keeps doing that. Devil just full sending it over the, the railing. The Phantom swims after Count Pharos's boat, but Count Pharos notices it and takes fire. Phantom has to pretend like he's dead in the water as Count Pharos gets away. So the Phantom has lost Pharos for now, but as he swims ashore, he takes this lighthouse manager hostage and decides he's going to use the big light on the lighthouse to shine over the land to see if he can't find the car that Count Pharos is. He does. This skips a couple of comedic panels where the Phantom also sees, I remember in particular, a couple making out in a park. Just shines a giant light on him. But I'm guessing just to keep everything within the 32 pages of this reprint, they decided to omit, some unnecessary panels like that. So the Phantom has found the car that Count Pharos has gotten away in, so he knows where it's stopped. Meanwhile, Pharos has this big woman, Big Hannah, watch over this mysterious girl. He has Red let loose the hounds, the mastiffs, but the Phantom has a hound of his own, and even though they're 2 big mastiffs, they don't prove any difficulty for Devil, and Devil chases them off. Meanwhile, Count Pharos, go to the shack. I want those papers signed. If the prisoner puts up any objections, a little convincing. Red's going to go whip the prisoner. He's going to go whip this girl. The Phantom's not going to have any of that. Phantom takes out Red. He picks up the prisoner. Gets him, not her. "You're a man. Who are you?" Yes, apparently Count Pharos has more than one person kidnapped. And this is Baron Dufresne. And he knows Count Pharos. Count Pharos is his guardian. The plot thickens. This mysterious girl and then this boy being held hostage by Count Pharos, who he knows. The Phantom investigates the boy's pockets a little further. He finds this note: "Since the death of my beloved Merle, I, Marshal, 8th Baron of the Dufresne, have no more desire to live. Goodbye, forgive me. A suicide note? Are you this Marshal? Yeah, but I'm not going to kill myself. I don't really know what's going on. So apparently this clearly there's this plot afoot where Count Pharos is going to fake Marshal's suicide, but why? And who is Merle? Well, the Phantom asks what she looks like. Sure enough, Baron Dufresne has a locket of her, and look at that. It's the mysterious girl. Her name is Merle. Merle of all names. Meanwhile, Merle is still being held captive by Big Hannah. What do we think? Is Big Hannah going to prove a match for the Phantom? Well, looks like Hannah's giving the Phantom a little bit of trouble, but sure enough, the Phantom gets the best of her. It says, "Cease to be a laughing matter." Yeah, I love this panel. Thank goodness Devil isn't here to see me being chased by a woman. This is not the first time the Phantom has remarked about how embarrassed he would be if, if Devil saw him being bested by a woman. I don't know if that means Devil's a misogynist or the Phantom's just generally insecure, but well, the Phantom out, out muscles Hannah, and you see this, Hannah, you don't have to tie me. Honest, I won't try to get away. I've never known a man who is strong enough to pick you up. Hannah is smitten with the Phantom because the Phantom beat her, overpowered her, and she's never had that happen. The Phantom takes off with Merle, but meanwhile, the Mastiffs have caught up with Baron Dufresne, Marshal. So now the Count has Marshal back within his custody. When one gets out of the fire, the other falls into it. It's terrible. Meanwhile, the Phantom and Merle are trying to navigate the estate. And that's when Count Pharos spots Merle down there. He has Dufresne. He's trying to get Dufresne to sign over these papers, apparently signing over his lordship or his estate to Count Pharos. And he says, "Oh, I've got a bead on the Phantom and Merle." There was another missing panel here where we actually see him targeting Merle. So it's kind of you kind of have to just take his word for it, I guess. And so, of course, Marshal is like, "Well, no, I'll sign. I don't want you to shoot Merle." And they throw Marshal in this boathouse. Apparently, this boathouse gets flooded whenever the high tide comes up. So it's only going to be a matter of time before Marshal is in danger. Meanwhile, Count Pharos spots the Phantom and he takes a shot, and the Phantom's hit. The Phantom's hit. I thought you were... Shh. Weep over my dead body. Make it good. This is the second time that the Phantom has played dead in this strip, so that seems to be a go-to a go-to tactic for him. But hey, if it works, keep spamming it. That's the old fighting game philosophy there, isn't it? "Oh, you killed him," and they pick up the Phantom's presumably dead body to drag him off, but the Phantom... "Oh, but fools do. It's come to life." Knocks out Red again. This is like the 4th or 5th time he's belted Red. But sure enough, Count Pharos gets the best of the Phantom. He didn't really have much of a plan there. Play dead for a couple of seconds or two before trying to overpower him. But anyway, the Phantom gets thrown into the boathouse along with Marshal, and sure enough, the tide is coming in. Water is quickly rising. Meanwhile, Count Pharos is taking off with Merle. How are they going to get out of this one? They're locked in this boathouse. They have no hope. I mean, the Phantom's so desperate, he wishes he was a sardine or a minnow when, sure enough, Big Hannah. You see Big Hannah falling in love with Phantom. It comes back into clutch. She unlocks the boathouse and she wants to go with the Phantom. But yeah, I mean, tragic. I know. We were all thinking it, right? We all really wanted the Phantom to end up with Hannah. And you know what? I won't spoil anything. Maybe he does. Stay tuned and find out. But for now, the Phantom and Hannah part ways as The Phantom and Marshall take off towards the airfield, and the plane is taking off with Count Pharos and Red and Merle on it. How is the Phantom gonna stop this? The Phantom's a crazy man. Okay, so he jumps on the wing of the plane. He's got a parachute on. That's an important point too. Then, as the plane levels, the Phantom goes from the defensive to the offensive, and they explain to us what he's going to do. He's going to cut a strut, and that's going to crash us. And they're like, "Nah, he he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't kill us all. He wouldn't kill the girl too. Well, you don't know what he would do." Um, Count Pharos makes a really good point. Sober up. He's not dead. Ghosts don't wear parachutes. And that's a really important point, that the Phantom did wear a parachute. Maybe it would have been a little bit more convincing if the Phantom, if they made note of the opposite, right? If the Phantom had decided to jump on the wing without a parachute, and then, I don't know, Red is like, "No, he wouldn't kill us all," and Count Pharos is like, "He did it without a parachute. Of course, he's immortal," and so they believe him. But Count Pharos makes such a great point, and that's important because in the very next panel, what are we going to do? We're going to land. What else we can do? Count Pharos just, he doesn't call the bluff. He just assumes the Phantom is crazy enough to crash them all. The Phantom belts Red for, man, what, sixth, seventh time? But Red should have, what, 6 or 7 skulls all over his face by this point. And Count Pharos gets one finally for good measure. Meanwhile, Merle is now safe, but she still hasn't gotten her memory back. Maybe she thinks it'll never happen. That's when Marshall comes riding up, and they see each other. I don't know. Is she going to remember him? Is she going to remember him? "Merle, my darling, don't you know me? Marshall, Marshall." Oh, she remembers Marshall. It's all coming back to me. Oh, and so the Merle starts recounting why she lost her memory. Apparently, she was in this accident in Alexandria, and she believes that she killed a man, that she caused an accident that actually killed a man. I'm so sorry for this focus. I don't know what's happening. A couple of men were standing there. Someone was lying in the road. They convinced her that she had hit this man and that she's got to come with them and they'll take care of it. But she was so shocked by the ordeal that that's the last thing that she remembers, is that she killed a man in a car accident. But there's got to be more to this story, right? And so the Phantom goes over to Count Pharos and he's like, "You better start explaining what the heck is going on, because this doesn't cover everything." And of course, it just takes a little bit of the old strangling him for a bit to convince him to come forward with the whole story. So apparently, Count Pharos is a bit of a gambler, gambled all these winnings away. He was also the guardian of Baron Dufresne, Marshall, as you mentioned earlier. And so he's been fidgeting with Marshall's accounts, which was fine because Marshall wasn't looking at him. Count Pharos had control of the accounting until Marshall got married. And apparently, 3 weeks ago, Marshall decided he was going to get married to this girl named Merle. And so, Count Pharos came up with this plan to convince Merle that she had killed a man. He hired an actor to jump out behind the car when it crashed. So Merle didn't actually kill anyone. It was just a scheme. But what Count Pharos hadn't counted on was Merle being so shocked by the encounter that she wanders off and loses her memory. And by an extreme stroke of luck, she comes across the Phantom, who gets mixed up in the whole affair. And so everything comes out with it. Count Pharos and Red end up in jail. We don't see what happens to Big Hannah. I guess she goes free, right? Well, she did save the Phantom and Marshall. Merle and Marshall, how can we ever thank you? Knowing you're happy is enough for me. I'm a silly guy, sort of sentimental. Who knows? It's a small world. Good luck. And that's where the mysterious girl ends. Like I said, it's not really connected to the larger Diana Palmer Phantom story. And as you can imagine, there's no details there that really place it as having to take place after the slave traders. I don't really remember the developments of the next story, which is, I believe it's the Golden Arrow, the Golden Circle. Yes, I don't know if there's details in that reference the mysterious girl, requiring it to sort of take place where it is, like in Little Toma, right? Because Little Toma was isolated on its own, but the following story made references to the Phantom's exploits in Little Toma, so it connected everything together. I do think that this remains a bit of a standalone story, and I said last week it's not my favorite story because of that, right? Because you're so invested in the Diana Palmer and Phantom storyline. At least I was, for these, 9 stories, and then suddenly you get this like one shot story that has nothing to do with it. To Lee Falk's credit, he had done a lot of Diana Palmer in both number 8 and number 9, Fishers of Pearls, and the Slave Traders, so maybe he thought the time was for a little bit of a break. But personally, I'm just like, when are we going to get back to Diana? When are we going to get back to Diana? Especially because we're left with this big cliffhanger of Diana not knowing that the Phantom is alive. It's such a, it's such an interesting choice to just take a complete break away from that for a couple months to tell this story. But anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed it. It's not a terrible story. Like I said, I had some criticisms in there where developments were convenient. And again, this is a situation where the Phantom being there is so, it's, I don't know what the I don't know what term I'm looking for is. It doesn't really have anything to do with the Phantom. Does that make sense? Like, at least for Little Toma was a member of a tribe that the Phantom was the protector of, and so that's why he was in the area. Here he just happens to be in Alexandria. There's no particular reason why he should be in Alexandria following the events of the slave traders. I guess unless that was the hospital Diana was taken to. Now I'm just kind of thinking out loud. But you see what I mean, right? There's nothing about him meeting this woman by chance that's like, oh well, it's because he was the Phantom. I mean, it's a good thing that she ran across him because he's the Phantom, but there's nothing about him being the Phantom that placed him in that curio shop in Alexandria to save Merle and, start the whole adventure. But anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed it. Like I said, the Golden Circle is next, but I think that in 1939, after Mysterious Girl started, we also got the first Sunday story. So I think next week I'll have the first Sunday story for you. So that'll be in that'll be in another glorious Hermes Press volume, and that will be in color. We get to see what the Phantom looks like in color. I wonder what color his suit was going to be. We'll find out. The Lee Folk always wanted it to be gray, so I guess it'll be gray, right? Thank you very much. I was Pirate Dave. I'll see you next time. Bye.